and reduced it from 1.5 megabytes to 997 bytes. So I can post this link. It shows like the whole breakdown of what they do. It's pretty nuts, but yeah, that's okay. So not overdue, but really quick, I wanted to cover. So we added the glide dependency, and so like let's say you found a library that you wanted to use, and you're like, okay, how do I get started using it? So I'll just kind of walk through like using glide as an example, what we're going to do with that. Great. So how do you use glide? Some libraries are great about this, right? They give you this nice little example. Sorry, it's really tiny, but so in here they're like, okay, get the reference to the image view, and then right, some of this stuff is like
with this.
Glide has two different things. So basically, to explain it specifically how Glide works, Glide is using something called the builder pattern. So you are. Alright, so Glide has this concept where you are using the builder pattern, which is basically you start with a static initializer, so with, right? And you're passing in an application context. You're saying load some value, and then you're loading it into something else. So
trying to make it like JavaScript.
Yeah, so it's very
jQuery.
procedural. So let's try it out. So I need an image view.
Load this into this.
So I'll use my main activity as an example. I'll just put my design, right? So I'm going to put an image. Okay, put an image above my button, like aligned with the top, right? I don't really care. Okay, fine. Drag an image in and put like some people, and that's it. Like the launcher. And then constrain it. Okay, so this is not gonna like. Okay, so if you have like a render error that says failed to instantiate some class, like you can kind of ignore it because the things you need are in here. But otherwise, read through it and fix it. I'm not going to focus on it. So this image view has an ID called image view. So I'm going to get, just like the glide example showed, you get the reference first, and then you use glide, right? So cool. So I'll get my image view reference. Image view, find view by ID, r.id, image view. Cool. So I get my reference, right? And this is where we're slightly straying from the documentation, but like, glide, basically, we do glide with, we do this, load something, we don't know what yet, into our image view. Okay? So this is like the standard way of doing things in Glide. Like this one, I'm going to scroll down. Alright, so this is like the standard approach you will always use with Glide. You do Glide with your context, load something into image view. So load usually is passing in a URL. That's like the benefit of using Glide is you can load from URL. So just really quick, I'm going to pull up an image URL. Do this. Cool. Get my URL, and then I put it in here. That makes it look terrible, but I'll do this instead. Okay. That way it's easier to read. I would recommend don't try and copy and paste my URL. Just like find your own image. But the concept is you do glide with, right? And sometimes people like break it up where it's easier to see by having it on new lines, so you can see that it's like step by step. So if we hit play, this will build. And if we go to our emulator, we should see our image appear sliding upward. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay, we'll just try this. Copy this. Right. Let me go up. Okay. You might have to switch Glide app to Glide. I don't know. May work. May not.
Failed mode.
Okay. Well,
Get the importer?
they use. Okay.
Which version are you on? V3 or V4?
I want to say it's V4. I can double check. Over here. Glide.
V4. So maybe it is Glide app, but how do you instantiate Glide app?
Yeah. Alright. Cool. Well, let's try this. So, look app. So Glide app, you have to like extend. So let's try this. Glide app. And then let's go to the documentation. Getting started.
No, it's Glide. V4 is just Glide.
Okay. Let's see. I'll cancel that. Let's go back here. Let's just so if we get a smaller image, maybe that's. I don't necessarily know that that's actually the button of it.
Except the one that you grabbed was 626 by 626.
Right. Oh, right. I stopped using that one, so let's switch back. Yep. Alright. Permission denied, missing the internet permission. So it's important to know when you are using a library that catches things from the. I totally thought this was by default. Alright, so. Okay, another thing that you have to do when you are requesting things from the internet, you have to add this permission request. So if we are using Glide, I'll just make a boilerplate project that has this permission already enabled. Basically, in your manifest, you can declare what permissions are used, or like what ones you need. So there's like a huge list of permissions. But
And when you download the APK, it's like this thing's requesting permission to X.
So yeah. So when you are in the App Store and you're like about to download some app, it will say this app requires these permissions by default. And then for certain things, it can request it. It has to request it at runtime. So like use of your camera, microphone, I think your location as well. Yeah. So that's why that's in there. So let's try this again. That should work now. Famous last. Yay.
Wow.
All right, there's our image. It takes up the whole screen, but it's at least there. So
It's like a screen within a screen.
Yeah.
With a button.
Very meta.
An iPhone within an
So,
Android.
I guess does anyone have any questions on that process, or how I maybe like debug that situation and work through it?
Yeah, how did you see the internet part, or did you just realize?
Oh, yeah.
Top
So
of the stack.
So in the, let's see, I think this is the last one.
Did.
Okay, so basically in your Android monitor, whenever you have issues where something's crashing, if it says like this has crashed, would you like to open it again? I would highly recommend not just hitting open again or quit out of it, because like it will always output something to your Android monitor, and so that's where I was looking when I found something that, like when it's not working the way I expect. This is usually the first place I go. So like here, you can check like, okay, each of these has a tag and some kind of thing. So they have like, how you can say log.i, and that's an info thing, right? Well, here's I. There's log.debug, that's right there. E, error. So right here it's saying glide execute error, request through an uncaught throwable. So it says security exception, permission denied, and it says you're missing the internet permission. Sometimes, it's not that descriptive, so you have to think more. But like in this case, it's like, oh, cool. And then if you were like stuck, if you're like, how do I do that? You're like, okay, open up Google, right? How to add internet permission, Android, right? And then, handily there's a nice little 22-second tutorial right there. So yeah,
That's so
that's
cool.
It's sweet. Nerd. But yeah, anytime you're using a library, you're basically glued to the documentation until you're comfortable with it. So that's at least like a really like a shotgun level, right? Like how to use Glide. And I'm not entirely sure which projects we'll use Glide with, but we'll find something for sure. So yeah, any questions? Yeah, some of this stuff is a little much. So I'll just introduce you to this concept. So Android has this standard called material design. And it basically defined that this is how all of Google applications will look. Okay, and this is important to know both as a developer and as a designer, or even as a project manager. So like, this is like they described all their theory. I don't really read into this stuff so much. The main part that you want to go into is this components. And somewhere in here, honestly, I actually kind of struggle to find it most of the time. Cool. So they have like a bunch of different like pages. Like I don't actually love the way this site is designed because it's really hard to navigate. But basically, like they define all of the standards of what things will look like. So we've done buttons, right? So
this will kind of be like Bootstrap for like an HTML.
kind of. It doesn't necessarily show you how to do it. So let's do components. This is like the only way I can find it. I bookmark one thing. So then I have all of it. But I'll link to the actual guidelines. So basically, Google defines for you the standard of like what your buttons should do, why they should be used in a specific way. This is like a very UX heavy documentation piece, and it's long. Like I don't know if you can see my scroll bar, but it's tiny, right? So you should not like read through this as like, I mean, if you're bored, go for it. But
Just a bit of light reading.
Go from one to go.
so like
Okay,
they define every single, like almost every single case you can think of, right? Like these are like literally a standard. So they have button styles, like what should happen when you tap the button, all this other stuff, the density of how your things should be laid out.
2D
So, like-
corner radius. Oh my god.
Yeah. So
It's
like
like research.
yeah, they've done a lot of work. But the reason I say that it's important to understand is like let's say someone asks you, hey, I want you to add a progress bar. Well, are you gonna try and build that from scratch? Hell no. So like you should jump over to this material. Like, if you're doing Android, right, you should jump to the material documentation and look for, oh, hey, progress and activity. That seems what I need. And then it has all of these different things, and you can like just by default like see how they work. So like, and these are actually super easy to implement in Android, which is awesome. It's so convenient. But like,
I like buffer.
yeah, so you can have like these different progress bar styles, like the indeterminate progress bar is like, if you ever need to look up what that is, you're like, okay, Android indeterminate
Basically means nothing, just gives you something to look at.
progress
Yeah.
bar.
Like
Yeah,
the progress
right.
bar on the old downloads.
And
Or-
it usually links you to the right documentation, and it shows you how to build it. Like, it's really straightforward. And if you need to style it in a specific way, like add specific information. So like, in terms of like understanding how to approach a problem you don't really understand, like,
Google.
yeah, Google, but Google in a smart way, right? Like, do use the Android lingo. Like, try to use these, like, Material I/O is the Android standard as well. So like, if you find something on Material I/O, it will guaranteed be in Android in some way, shape, or form.
So it's something ironic though is when you're using Android Studio and you're updating, you're downloading something from there, your download will max out, and then it'll start unzipping, and your progress bar is maxed out, and it takes another 3 minutes for it to finish.
Technically, Android Studio is intelligent, so it's like, yeah, they pass.
Shift the blame, nice
Yeah,
job.
exactly. That's what it is. But, alright. So I just wanted to like bring that up because the next thing I would like us to do is I want us to like pair up. I don't really care if it's 2 or 4 people, but I think it's important to understand how to break down a project. So what I want you guys to do is I have these 2 images, and I can like actually put them on the screen because that might be easier. But basically, I want you to like define what your task lists would be. So like literally you're being given 2 images, and I personally just want to see how you break that down, and then I will provide, you know, feedback on like how you did that and like things you need to take into consideration. Because I know for a fact every single person in this room can build it with what we've covered in class. So like, yeah, it's just about breaking that down. Like, but I'm not sure the best way to do this. So
Are you talking about like pseudocode or?
yeah, pseudocode, but start higher level. So like identify what, you know, how many activities do you need? What views do you need? What are the, like, you know how I built that spec for the guessing game? I want you guys to try to build that now, like in class, and you know, then I can help direct you if you get stuck. But it's like, and we will, I don't know, I can have you submit it if that's a necessity, but I'd rather just kind of go through it. We have plenty of whiteboards here, so you guys can use those as well. Thoughts? Do you want me
So
to
like
keep lecturing?
portfolio would be the name of the application.
Word.
I don't know, it's kind of up to you. Like,
Yeah.
literally this is possible because,
So
like, I want to gauge where you're at from these 2 weeks. So,
what is app name? So at the very top of that, is that a header or app name?
well, let's just call them like design page names. So like they don't, this doesn't have to be the app header name. So I'll just put this, right? You just know the page. And this is the project detail.
Okay.
Okay. So how about this? I want to see like before we, but like, okay, I'll put it this way. You can kind of leave as soon as you have a project spec that I've checked off. I'll put it that way. Because we're, you know, after class time's over, we're supposed to. Because if you can do this, actually, if you can do this and you build like the actual app in the time we had, like you'll be in a good start for one of our future assignments. I'll put it that way. So
All right.
Designing it and building an app that will.
So
yeah, this is not going to be this week's assignment, but you will have to build it at some point.
So for clarification on what we're doing is we are doing the design specs for this like you did for our guessing game.
Yeah.
So basically, copy and paste your guessing game and change
Shut
it
up,
to be this.
Caleb.
You can try. I don't think it'll work, but go for it.
Oh, no,
I was bringing it up so I could use it as a guideline.
exactly.
Okay, so
Guideline,
how
copy,
about
paste,
this?
same.
Like, I want to see like either a text pad document or like if you do better handwriting, sure, do
Some
that.
of us use Microsoft
But
Word.
I just want to see like how you define things. And when I'm talking tasks, I'm saying like